Hi, thanks for watching this episode of Zoom Breakdown, where we talk about story analysis with Greg, Jack, and myself. And we're going to be talking about Fargo Season 3, Episode 1, The Law of Vacant Places. And I hope you enjoy. Thanks.
What's up?
Hey, fellas.
How's it going?
Hey, you need your vision checked, Rick.
Yeah.
You're getting old. You're getting old, man.
Well, have you been wearing masks for like, what, 9 months or something like that?
I've been a mask-wearing motherfucker. That's what I've been.
I bet you have. Hey, Jack, how's it going?
Good. How are you, Greg?
I'm doing okay, man. I'm doing okay. Just can't wait to dive into this episode, boy, I tell you.
All right. I'll start out with my dissertation, try to keep it short, and then we're going to dive in.
If you can keep it for, I'd say, good 40 minutes, give me and Jack another, 5 minutes to add on, and I think we got an episode.
We're set.
Fargo, Season 3, Episode 1, The Law of Vacant Places, written by showrunner Noah Hawley, available at Amazon, FX, Hulu. In the card game, the law or principle of vacant places is a simple method for estimating the probable location of any particular card in the four hands. It can be used to aid in a decision at the table and to derive the entire suit division probability table. At the beginning of a deal, each of four hands comprises 13 cards, and one may say there are 13 vacant places in each hand. The probability that a particular card lies in a particular hand is 1/4 or 13/52, the proportion of vacant places in that hand. From the perspective of a player who sees one hand, the probable lie of a missing card in a particular one of the other hands is 1/3. The principle of vacant places is a rule for updating those uniform probabilities as one learns about the deal during the auction and the play. Essentially, as the lies of some cards become known, especially as the entire distributions of some suits become known, the odds-on location of any particular card remain proportional to the dwindling numbers of unidentified cards in all hands, i.e., to the numbers of so-called vacant places. The principle of vacant places follows from conditional probability theory, which is based on Bayes' theorem. I went to YouTube to find a clip on Bayes' theorem and conditional probability. I won't go into that. That was it. But who knows? This has to do with bridge. This is a bridge thing. So, and the state of mind is known as Fargo. The opening scene set in Berlin, 1988, pre-wall coming down. The face of power is the state. And in this scene, it is established that the truth is dictated by the state. The East German man named Jakob is powerless in denying the state interrogator's charge that he is Yuri Gurka, and all his responses are co-opted to end up meaning the accusations of him murdering Helga Albrecht are true. This is clearly established when Jakob corrects the interrogator about his situation. When the interrogator merely lifts his hand, stopping Jakob, there is a problem. For you to be right, that would have to mean that the state would have to be wrong. Is that what you are saying, that the state is wrong? I paraphrase. The look in Jakob's yes. eyes tell us everything. He will try once again to refute this charge, but he murdered Helga. But if he's charged with shitting in the public square at this point, it will become fact. Statistical. This is just a side note. If you've seen in the lives of others, the East German, the power of the Stasi was so overwhelming that the suicide rate was one of the highest in the world. It is at this point where Jakob, with the camera on his shoes, he's literally urinating out of fear. The Fargo music, which I've come to believe that can be adapted to any style. Music slowly accompanies the moving into the picture on the wall, snowy field, bare tree that on full close-up takes us into 2010. And the opening titles, This is a True Story, with true fading away first, leaving this is a story, and then that fading away with a word at a time, story being the last. Now, Fargo season 3 begins. A story of two brothers, but a story that is so much more in the sense that it is the true story of the evaporation of the delusion often called American exceptionalism. It is unlikely love striving in a place of inverted value. This anniversary celebration opening with family, mostly friends and business acquaintances. By the time the Fargo title comes on the screen, the red one that read, so much is established. Some great three-person scenes. First, Emmett and Cy giving audience to their banker, the unique problem of trying to give money back to a financier who loaned them money, but all they get in trying to pay them back, clicks and buzzers. Emmett is like a pseudo godfather. Banker reveals they tried all the regular routes. For Christ's sake, it was a bridge loan. Bridge. There are several great three-person scenes in the first episode, but even in the first 5 to 10 minutes, exposition seminar, exposition without realizing it's exposition. The disgust in Cy's face when he looks Nikki Swango over, it is clear they, Ray and Nikki, are both out of their class at this party. Ray, Emmett's brother, gets 5 minutes. That's what Cy gives him. The upside down shot that follows him and the shot of the bear as he walks past it. Cy, Emmett, and Ray, family first? No. We see the picture of the stamp and then the meeting. Ray knows where he stands. Him commenting how he wasn't invited to the daughter's wedding, and Cy was. Emmett finally evades it with, so, how's the Corvette? Ray, it's a car. Says everything about where they stand with each other and what is next. Ray doesn't want to borrow money to be for entrepreneurial reasons. He doesn't want to go into some new developing business. He wants to buy Nikki a ring. Emmett, led by Cy, lie, and Ray knows it. It's not the right time, leading us to the stamp, the 2-cent stamp in their history. This is the only scene where Ray has any semblance of power. He calls Emmett out, and we get the history. An older boy taking advantage of a younger. He even shuts a Cy down. She's a catch. She deserves a pricey ring. And then the line I want to use if I'm ever negotiating, so are you going to do what's right, or are you going to do what's right? However, he's overplayed his hand as he explains to Nikki that he needs a real drink. I look forward to your thoughts as we talk about the story, cast of characters. I want to talk about Nikki Swango and Ray, unlikely pair, but bridges their connection, or as Nikki says, simpatico, Swango and Stussy, Gloria, Invisible Burgle, Fargo Police. The Fargo Police, I think, are the nicest police in the world. She's the essence of good in this good versus evil story. Eden Valley, Eden Prairie, and I'll close with the 3-person power scene. We talked about control before, and when we meet Varga, Emmett has left his family late night business. Varga maintains power. He is silent as Emmett yammers on, and then he hits them with refusing the money. That's all right, you keep it. The difference between this, for me, the difference between this scene and the East Berlin scene is that Jakob realizes not too long in that he's screwed. And there's nothing he can do but piss on himself. In this scene, Emmett and Cy are still trying to convince themselves, though shocked, are still trying to convince themselves that there is a way out, somewhat a callback to an existentialism in season 2, Waiting for Dutch, the idea of control. Varga reveals exactly that he intends to disguise his transactions through their business. Power and corruption is not the state, but a deregulated one, allowing for power and corruption to infect and attach itself to American business. Emmett and Cy didn't know it, but they had been living under the delusion that they had control from the minute they accepted the money. And the death of Stussy awakens Gloria Burgle to foul play. So, ladies and gentlemen, I now open the floor to business.
Yeah, no. I want to ask a quick question. If we go back to the very beginning, the opening,
yes,
and the character that's being interrogated,
right?
What's his name again? Is it Yuri?
Jakob, and his last name is almost like Underleiser.
Yeah.
Underleiser,
right.
Yeah.
What's his first name?
Jakob.
Okay. Now, I think you said something where you had him kind of urinating on himself.
Right.
Then, after being interrogated. I don't think he is. I think what the camera is showing is the ice on his slippers, because the ice is melting down, because it looked like they snatched him so right out of his house,
right,
that he didn't have time to even change his shoes. And if it's snowing out there, because it's happening in the winter, then he's got snow on the slippers. And then when the camera cut, you see the ice melting on the floor.
I'll give you that. That's a possibility. But to me, it looked like he was pissing on his pants. They didn't stand long enough because it was starting to build up. Well, but you're right. That could have been the ice melting and then building up.
Well, remember too that when Emmett was about ready, when he got the call to go down to the office by side,
slippers.
His wife had to remind him slippers. So so I think that might be the case.
Now, I thought the interesting thing about that scene, and I'm going to ask each of you guys. I mean, I gave you basically what I gave you was my interpretation, what I came out with it. I know when you saw, you came away with a different idea of what you thought the guy was guilty of that, and I'm not, and I'm curious, Jack, what did you think of that?
I'm more on your side. I thought he was not guilty, and which makes it even more horrifying, because the state is always right. The state can't be wrong.
The state was always right. Yeah. That's why I was doing, because of the time and what it was under.
But also, go ahead, Jack.
Yeah. So to me, that's more terrifying. If he were guilty, then he knows he's guilty, and then sort of justice is served.
Right.
Whereas if he is not guilty, it's more terrifying. As far as I almost felt like it was too much liquid for it to be melting snow.
I mean, it could be.
So that was my sort of interpretation of that.
Right. Now, also kind of going back to the beginning, the reason I thought that he might have been guilty, because again, I'm just judging it kind of from the first episode that I saw.
Right.
Is the idea about story and truth.
Right.
And because originally I thought he was innocent when I first saw it. I mean, obviously I've seen the whole season, so I kind of know, that he is innocent. But I thought, though, when I first saw it, it was like, oh, he's innocent. He's innocent. And he has this story, this is who I am, this is who I am. But then when the police officer is contradicting him and giving him stuff that's truth, you are in his mind. This is who you are. This is who you are.
Right.
For that brief moment, it did kind of make me think that. Oh, well, wait a minute. Maybe he was guilty. So I mean, because the idea of truth and versus story, because he was saying what you're giving me is story, what I'm giving you is truth.
Right. He says
now. So that was my first initial response to it. But, obviously seeing it again, it does also, the truth and story also can be, which is, the truth is what I say it is. So if he's innocent, then we're going to say that you're guilty, and that's the narrative of the story. That's going to be the truth.
Right.
So, which I think is consistent with the German Democratic Republic, which was East Germany. Basically their truth. It doesn't matter what your truth is.
Right.
Yeah. And by the way, if I was that guy and he says, there was a line where he says, well, wait a minute. If you're saying if the state can't be, how did he say it, Rick? What was
I paraphrase it.
If the state is wrong, the state can't be wrong.
Yeah, if you're right, then what you're saying
if you're right, if you're right, then the state can't be wrong, correct?
Yeah. And it's the way he said it, actually, that was like so like,
Yeah, I would have been like, no, I mean, I guess in my mind, it's like, you're wrong. The state is wrong. The state is wrong.
That's because we're Americans, right?
You're right. You're exactly right. That's exactly right. I mean, it's a pretty horrifying regime that, you know, they lived under. It was half communist and half, you know, I mean, communist and German and yeah, it was just weird. Yeah. And their truth was the truth.
Yeah, and I think that says a lot about where these characters are at and where they're at in Berlin. And because for the fact that he would allow the state to, he tries to defend himself, and then when the guy pretty much says, no, you're the guy, and for him to kind of stop fighting. And you're right, Jack. I mean, it's definitely more heartbreaking if he's innocent, if he's literally innocent about it. Yeah. But I love that opening because for a moment it was a little bit interpretation, you know, truth and story and stuff like that. But I thought that, and I thought it was also interesting how it opened up inside the microphone, you know.
Yeah.
And because if we just talk about just the way it was filmed, and then having the police officer eat that sandwich. And I was just wondering, does he do that? Does he eat the sandwich for every person he's going to pin on? Because you noticed that when the guy sat down, he was like licking his fingers. The sandwich was so good, but it was almost intimidating the way that he did that.
And he has a certain method about how he eats and how he folds the thing. It's like
how he folds it.
It's like you know, it's like trained to, you know, as if, you know.
Yeah, you're almost not worth me stopping finishing, you know. It's pretty crazy.
And that guy, when Jakob sits down, the first thing he does is look up. He sees the microphone, so he knows every single thing.
And so
I'm getting a little bit off the track here, but have you seen Chernobyl?
I've not.
I would
see that?
Recommend that. And it's very much similar in that, like, well, the state can't be wrong. There couldn't possibly have been an explosion because it's a Soviet facility. There's no way a Soviet facility would do that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay.
So it's where it's very much, you know, Orwellian of like what we believe is the truth, and it's even though it's not the truth.
What did you guys think of the way the camera that move into the picture? I just that blew me away.
I wanted to applaud. I think I did applaud because I think the moment the camera goes by and you hear the Fargo music come on, and I'm just sitting there like, oh, it's like, this is beautiful. I mean, because it always starts off with, this is based off of a true story. Right. And either story, sometimes depending on what episode, will disappear first, or truth will disappear first. Yeah. And you literally had a scene that's a parallel between truth versus story. Right. And how that can be formed and how that can be shaped. Yeah. And for them to show that, I mean, it was a real, I have to say, this might be my favorite out of all the openings, this one here.
Yeah, as Crazy on You is playing.
Yeah, I love that fucking song. I know.
It's a great song.
Perfect. Yeah. Speaking of music, I recognize it this time around. I'm surprised I didn't recognize it. So in the scene where they're in the casino and they're playing bridge, the song that's playing underneath is actually kind of a joke song. It's a parody song. An Italian comedian wrote a song of what it sounds like to Italians, how Americans sound to Italians, and it's basically gibberish. It's just gibberish that sounds, and at the end of the line, you know, he'll sing "all right," you know, but the rest of it is complete gibberish, and so it's just funny that they would include that in the, you know.
Yeah.
If you listen to that song, it makes no sense. It's just American sounding sounds. So,
well, again, that was another great scene. I mean, the irony that they're treating them playing bridge like they're like high rollers in Vegas, but they're going up against 80-year-olds, 70 and 80-year-olds.
Well, apparently there's actually big money in that. There's supposed to be big money in bridge. I found out in looking into this, Oliver Reed, the actor Oliver Reed. Mm-hmm. I guess he was a bridge player. He was a well-known bridge player.
Omar Sharif.
Omar Sharif. Maybe that's another one.
And I even love the moment that they were in the tub together and they were talking about coming in at third place. I'm like, man, that world they're living, man. And then what did Ray say? He says if this was the Olympics, this would be bronze.
Yeah. And then she said something like, "I like the way you think," or
yeah. That's the way I think. That's going to take us to the championship. What I liked in that scene actually was what's his name came in, the colonel came in there, and he's sitting in there, and he's getting up and he pulls the gun on Ray, and he's got him, and he's saying, "I'm going to pay $5,000." And then she comes in. She's a smooth operator. She's like, and she knows, she gets there, "Tell me, good looking, what do you?" She stands up and, distract him, and he's just working, but it's also Ray's doing it.
Yeah, Ray just stares just like
She
goes to the gun.
But I think that says so much about Ray, though. It's like how much he loves her, how lucky he is to get a woman like her. And let's face it, if it wasn't for her, Ray really would come off like a complete loser, because if we go back to the party, it's obvious that Emmett has the money, he has the stamp, and he has Cy, who really is kind of stepped in for where Ray should be.
Exactly. Ray.
Yeah. Now let me ask you guys something. I'm kind of curious, because when Ray and Emmett have their conversation, and then they talk about the past, and they talk about who got the Corvette and who got the stamps. Now, I'm curious. It sounded to me that it was Ray that chose, obviously, the car over the stamps. But in the conversation, he says, "But you tricked me into that." Yeah. And so, do you guys think that Emmett tricked Ray into that, or what? I'm curious on what you guys were thinking.
It's kind of immaterial, I almost think it doesn't matter what the real truth is.
All right.
Just because it just sort of shows you their dynamic is that Ray tends to make bad choices.
Yeah,
that's true. But Emmett also led the way on that. In other words, Emmett had the authority. He was an older brother.
Yeah,
but you're right. He makes the wrong choices because it's
But then that was kind of what Ray's comeback was, the older brother taking advantage
of a younger one. Yeah.
And I wonder how much of that is him having to justify him maybe making bad choices.
Well, but at the same time, he's been stewing over this for years.
Yeah.
So who knows what he's told himself?
I know. I know you got the thing. Of course, the weird thing about that is family. That whole thing of family, something like a stamp from X number of years ago.
Right.
I just like they'll never let it go, man. It's just like It's like,
that's true. That's true. No, you're right. You're right. Something like that. I mean, a grudge, especially a family grudge, could hold on forever. Well, yeah. Remember that first car, the beautiful.
Yeah, the beautiful.
I can't remember that beautiful car that matches the. It looks like a $500,000 car that's all, and it's snowing outside, and then they bring in Ray's crappy
Corvette.
Yeah,
and that's why it killed me when I heard him say, "It's a car." Like when he got it, I'm sure it was like
but it does kind of make me go back in my mind and think, well, maybe Emmett did know what he was doing, because he had to have an idea of those stamps, because nobody really takes stamps in a car, but it did. I'm starting to think that Emmett was like, well, if you want the car, Ray would take the car. And he keeps
I'm sure
rich.
Emmett did, but what the thing is like, when how old were they, in like teenager or little boy? It's like, you got to grow up and
But
move on. But people just don't
even established. I don't think that's even established when how old.
Yeah.
So the only thing is established is that how old they were. Not in this scene. No, not in this one. Right. No.
Right.
But older boy. But he does say older boy taking care of you. Yeah,
we don't
an older boy taking advantage of a younger. So that's.
Well, see, I would
think
they were. I think they were old enough. Because if you're having a discussion about, well, dad passed away, and somebody's like, I would rather take the stamps than the car. You know, you don't make those kind of decisions usually when you're a teenager.
Well, and it implies that they're at least 16.
Ray is going around to get in the car and completely forgets, and she's just waiting.
Yeah.
You know, because her idea, again, it's their idea of how, I don't think anybody else would really give a shit, you know, but they have this preconceived notion of this wealth, this, you know, class that they're in, and she's waiting for him to open the car.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Oh.
I don't even think that has anything to do with wealth. I just think it has to do with her dominance of him.
That may be true. I thought also it had to do with their perception of class and where where they are. But you're right. You're right. She, you know,
she knows
I'm the bottle and you're the beer. In my case, the glass.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, she knows she's a catch. She knows that he lucked out. And again, this kind of goes back to I think we had a conversation earlier about whether or not how much she really loves him compared to if she loves him or is she using him, that whole dynamic of the relationship. I mean, watching it again, it's interesting. I did get the sense that I think she does love him, but at the same time, I think she also uses him as well. She's, you know, but I think, you know, most relationships are like that, you know.
I think this comes down to subjectivity, because I'm inclined to believe what you believe. I believe that she does love him, but she's kind of like, for lack of a better word, the alpha male.
Yeah.
And she's a better criminal, and she's taken him into that world, and you know.
I'm gonna disagree with both of you. I think she doesn't love him. I think she's using him.
Okay.
I can't argue with that, because it comes down to, like, you know, what we each see in this thing. A lot of it comes down to what I would see. You know what I'm saying? My subjectivity, and you know, does that make sense?
I mean, I think for me, I think it could be both, because I do think she has some love for him. I do, and it's funny because I had to watch it a few times, because at first you don't necessarily know for certain, because she's with him, but at the same time she's with him because he is her parole officer, which he's not even supposed to be dating her in the first place. So that could be one, you know, and so therefore she can get things off of him, and she has something over him. But by being together long enough, I think she probably has developed actual feelings for him, because Ray. You know what's interesting about Ray is that there is sympathy for him. There is something relatable about him. You remember when we were talking about the other two protagonists in Fargo, you know, from Lester in season 1, and then in the movie with Jerry. Those guys, for me, those two characters, I couldn't relate. I related to what they were doing, but I had no empathy for them. You know, I felt both of them should definitely go to jail. Yeah. Where with Ray, though, and I think it is because of the family dynamics that I could totally feel that envy, you know, and I maybe in a lot of ways I think Nikki might have feel, because she's there at the house, she's there seeing how he's being treated, and so it could be, and I feel like that's kind of a relationship where if the woman is the alpha dog, then she's kind of pushing her guy. It's like, oh, you got to stand up for yourself. You got to do this. So
I just don't remember her grieving very much for him.
Yeah,
when we come to that episode, I actually kind of.
Okay.
This is good. This will be. We'd have to go into the future, into the season. I kind of don't want to go, but I
think what the actions that she does follow feels like someone that wants real payback and not just trying to save her own life. But I mean, you know, I think it is subjective, no matter how you look at it.
To me, she's always acting in her own interest.
He evidently is good at bridge. You know, that seems to be a thing.
That's true too. There was a lot of joy, which I thought was really cute, about how good they were together. And again, it is bridge, and yes, maybe she could make money off of it. I don't know how much, but you know, there were moments that and again, it's very subtle, because I didn't necessarily pick it up the first time that I watched it. It was just like, okay, she's kind of using it, But watching it again, it just felt like, that she, again, I think she did love him. But again, she's also a criminal too. So, her love might be the extent of, oh, he's dead. Okay, now I got to fend for myself. I think she still always looks out for herself, probably first and foremost. But I do think that I think she probably did fall for him at some point. She was with him.
Yeah, I love it. I'll go this way. I think it's complicated. I don't think it's anything, the words.
You mean like human beings?
Like human beings, yeah.
I want to make sure. Hey, while we had our little break, I got to tell you, I went back over to watch that interrogation scene again while we were setting up. I don't know, man. I watched it about 3 times, the little short scene. I was looking. I really don't think he pissed himself. I think that there were ice on there because I was looking at his pants and the pants weren't wet or anything. I was kind of waiting for that. And what they did is when the camera hit to the ground, even though there was a lot of water underneath, but there was a lot of ice that was also around the drain, and there was also ice on the shoes.
All right.
So, I mean, I'd be curious if you guys, whenever, just watching it again, it was like.
We'll have to go, what we'll do is the next Zoom, I'll bring Noah Hawley in here.
Yes, please. We should. Let's ask him. Ask him.
The only reason I thought that was just because of the volume of the liquid. That's all.
That's how I felt too.
And honestly, I kind of thought, oh, maybe I missed it. We were talking about. Well, we were talking about Nikki. Well, you know why she's your favorite character?
I do love. Hey, she's a gorgeous girl, but she's been shit on too. I mean, if you've been doing time, whatever, the odds of you coming out. I mean, people are gonna hold it against you. I imagine if I'm to try and put myself in her situation, she's got the problem of, every guys want to fuck her, and 99, so she's past that already with most people. She sees through their game automatically.
Well, she had a great introduction when his brother asked, it's like, did you meet her at work? And then they do the montage of her coming into his office.
I love it.
And the look that Ray gave her was like he was hooked.
Yeah.
Well, and then we see her attacking a cop at the, in the lineup.
Yeah, in the lineup.
That's true too. But what I will say this though, it was the one thing I felt that Ray had that Emmett didn't, is he had a partner, someone to. Like when you look at Emmett's wife, she acts like a wife, she's just like, she's out of the business, but Nikki, man, she's like, I think she was she's definitely one of my favorite characters in this pilot.
Yeah. And they were like 2 kids coming home after their victory. Like Gloria, our girl, Gloria Burgle. Again, well, this is establishing, right? And this whole episode is really establishing the future, and it really sets. I mean, she's just a really sweet gal. We talked about the invisibility thing before, but trying to raise the kid on her own.
So, I mean, her coming into the store to pick up her son, the fact that the door doesn't open, I mean, what a great introduction for a character. She's doing all this. The door, it has a sensor. It doesn't open. Even her son's like, well, I don't know why you couldn't get in. And then when you realize that that's her stepdad, and then even the conversation she has with her stepdad at the kitchen, the idea that it looks like she's going to be overlooked for chief of police, because they're the I guess another sheriff department is merging with her department, and then not to mention the fact that her husband left her for another man. I mean. It was also very subtle, because that could be exposition scene, but it never felt that at all.
Right.
It did just feel very conversational, and sometimes
she is awoken though, however, like, cause they go back for the little, the gift that he left back, the kid left back at the house, his birthday gift. Right. And he goes back. And I loved that first of music when she's going in there, and it's like police instincts take over like immediately, and we see Gloria Bergo go into, this mode of like, grabbing stuff to hit something if it's in, and then seeing Ennis. And again, I this is my first time seeing that girl. I know she's done other stuff, but it's my first experience. Carrie Coon.
Yeah,
right?
Carrie Coon. Yeah.
But she was like almost, like I said, this is her stepdad, so there's not really blood relationship. There's more family connection there than in the Stussy and the Emmett Stussy, Emmett and for that one moment when she saw that he was dead, this, I mean, a horror feeling when you see anybody, but like it really hit her. But she's, it's like just a second, and then she's getting her son out of there. Like I said, cop mode takes over and everything like that.
Well, also it says a lot about her character when the son's like saying, come with, let's go, Mom, and then she says, I can't, I'm the sheriff. Yeah, I mean, I'm the chief, and then she goes. And then she goes in the trunk and she gets the shotgun. And her instincts go. And again, right there tells me she's good at her job.
Yeah.
She knows, she has her son called back up. And again, it does seem like there's these themes in Fargo that usually have either one regular person that does something really bad, trying to get money, trying to do a shortcut or something. Right. And then they run into someone that's really bad, usually a psychopath or something like that. And then there's usually a sheriff that's a good person, and that's also very good at their job. Right. This one's established that really good. So you figure if Gloria is that sheriff that is really good at her job, and both Emmett and Ray are kind of like. Particularly Ray, someone that wants to get ahead to a point where he's willing to commit a crime so that he can get some respect, then Varga must be the psychopath or the wolf.
Well, I don't think Ray, here's the funny thing. I think Ray's perception of getting ahead is, I don't think Ray wants his woman, and I think they want a bridge, and he's got a job, at least at this particular point, he's got a job. I don't know that he wants, his ambitions are just like happiness, like, whatever fairy tale, we tell ourselves of life, what life would be if him and Nikki get married. But he wants to get a ring, and he wants to get married. But I don't know, or at least we don't know at this particular point, if he wants anything beyond, like, what I'm saying? Beyond this job that he has, as far as career, money, et cetera, et cetera.
But he wants her to be happy.
Yeah.
And she wants to get beyond that.
Yeah.
And
that's
so,
true.
and that's where I think you could say she is using him to embolden him to do things he wouldn't do. And so, again, I mean, but here's the thing though. It was Ray's idea to get, I guess, Maurice, he was the guy that blew his piss test, which is I love that actor. What's his name? Snoot McNearty.
Yeah. I don't know. I'd have to go look it up.
Yeah.
But you're right.
But
I've seen him in a couple of things.
Yeah. But I think his character name is Maurice. And but it was you find
Ray.
out that it was Ray's idea to have him go and steal the stamp. But here's the thing though, which is funny because
again he almost tried to talk Ray out of it.
Yeah.
Like criminals try to talk the guy out of it.
Exactly. Yeah,
that's true.
It's like a portent of doom.
Yeah, it's almost like, well, if it's your stamp, why did you decide your brother for?
Yeah,
you're right. That's a good parallel to Jerry in the movie, in Fargo.
And I just love that he gets so upset. He goes, just steal the damn thing.
But maybe Ray's. Look, it's obvious that his character is head over heels in love with Nikki. I mean, who wouldn't be? And so you're right. Maybe if Nikki wasn't in the picture, for Ray, maybe being a parole officer. I mean, look, obviously it's not the life. I mean, I think the montage of every guy pissing in the cup is not where you want to be. So I think she does emboldened him to think bigger. And I think that's where they're doing the bridge thing for Ray was a big deal, because the fact that everybody's looking at his girl and then they're also taking their money is a step. You're seeing his art grow, but the resentment towards his brother is still there. And so obviously there's still jealousy there that he feels that his brother, because he says to Emmett, "You owe me. You know, you owe me," where Emmett gets very defensive and it's like, "How do I owe you?" You know, so it's a really rich, interesting, you know, whenever you're doing character dynamics, particularly with siblings, done right, it could be very compelling television.
Yeah, because it's so that's automatically so explosive that little things, you know, that just like blow up in between two people, family members. It's like, man.
I knew a guy who watched this season and didn't know that the two brothers were played by the same guy.
I've heard that. No, I've actually heard people say that they thought that there were two different brothers.
Well, I don't blame the guy. You know, so there was, the guy did such a good job. And
I think the guy's a moron.
Is that the reason why you relate to him, Rick? Because he's a moron? Just ask it.
I guess so. I do relate to him. He had that leather jacket at the beginning of that. So, and I was thinking, that's me. I wear a leather jacket. Thinking you're going out looking good and everything. Then
I am curious, guys. I mean, if we were talking about, like I mentioned before, how Ray kind of fits the mode of Lester in season 1. And Jerry in the movie, but yet Ray comes across, okay, maybe it's me, but he does come across more sympathetic, like I'm rooting for him. But I never felt that way with the other two guys. It's like with the other two guys, I wanted them to get caught. So do you guys feel that way?
With Lester and with
and
Jerry? Yeah. You're right. I did not feel any empathy, or, you know, I just figured, with Jerry, I was just like, you know, there's basic feeling of like, oh, this guy's going to get, when he gets fucked, he's going to get, and I do want to see that.
Let's talk about, I'm kind of curious, let's talk about how Maurice, you know,
the demise,
killing the wrong, well, he ended up killing first he loses the address in the car. While he's talking to his therapist. So he's literally talking to his therapist on the phone, which is hilarious. He loses it, and then he decides that he remembers the address.
Never smoke pot talking to your therapist while you're trying to get to Eden Prairie.
Right. And so he ends up robbing the Stussy place. Yeah. Actually, to find out that Gloria's stepdad is also named Stussy.
Stussy, yeah.
And then when he comes back and he has this whole interaction with Emmett, and Emmett finds out that he ended up killing somebody.
Ray,
but the idea,
I mean Ray.
Ray. When Ray finds out talking to Maurice, because Maurice comes into the bathroom, that he killed somebody trying to get the stamp. And I loved how Nikki's reaction was. It's like, you did this? You did this for me?
Because did you have him, Robbie? Because I had to get the stamp. It's your time. You need the ring. It's your time.
She was very turned on there.
She was turned on. She goes, that's so romantic. I was like, fuck. I'm putty in her hands when she does that. I was like, okay.
But then Maurice
let's go kill this guy.
I know. Well, he tries to blackmail her. Yeah. He tried to blackmail both of them.
Yeah. And
then with $5,000, and then he leaves. Now, do you think the title might have something to do with what happens next? You know, the whole because the title of the episode is
the Law of Vacant Places.
Yeah.
And that's a bridge term, and she started counting immediately. She's doing this counting. So it's probabilities. She had. I'm going out on a limb here now, but I'm talking like probabilities that's in her head that she's figured out how long it'll take. So
to be at a spot to know where he's going to be and how much time she has to loosen those screws on the air conditioner.
Well, the weird thing is that she must have thought about this before. You know, like you don't think of that in the moment. She must have thought of this before, which is just bizarre.
Like you're
which makes me think maybe she's not so in love with Ray.
You know, I mean, she's kind of a psychopath. You're right. You're absolutely right. But then,
on the other hand,
Ray turns around and helps her. There was not a moment,
hesitation,
not a moment of going, wait a minute, honey. You just like the moment he was out there, he says, he's there, and he runs over there, and then he starts. He's the one who kicked it. He's the one who kicked the air conditioner and kills the guy.
And then
so maybe they do belong with each other.
I see. I loved actually after he's done, he looks out, he comes back and goes, holy shit.
Yeah.
He's never done that shit before.
And again, let's talk about the direction of this, because I love the air conditioned point of view as it was falling. I mean, you're sitting there, it's just there were little moments that I found watching this pilot. I feel like calling it a pilot. It's not a pilot. It's just but I feel like Fargo reboots every time because it's an anthology. Yeah. So it's like starting over again. But yet this episode, I think, was my favorite episode out of all of them. I haven't seen, with the exception of seeing season 4. But yeah, I just love.
Have you started season 4?
No, because we're going to look at that next week. Meaning,
for episode 1.
Yeah, for episode 1. So that's when I'm going to start. So I'm going to see it this week. So I can't wait to talk to you guys about it. But no, I just the choices of how he used the camera. I thought that shot of the air conditioning going over, killing the guy right off the bat. The other shot that stood out to me was, I mean, obviously we talked about the camera zooming into the picture, going into Fargo, but then another shot was after Cy said, "You have 5 minutes," and then Ray walks over to the stair. The camera turns upside down.
I love that shot. Yeah,
which I thought that was great. I even like the introduction of Ray and Sly, because you remember Sly was sitting down, lighting his pipe, talking to the other guy. Yeah. Ray standing. You don't even see Ray Emmett. You don't even see Emmett at first.
Right.
So they.
Yeah, and then in that scene, they almost finish each other's sentences.
Yes,
they're so like
they were like they were almost proud of being like they felt like they were the kings talking to this guy, and I think they were happy because they wanted to pay that money back. It's like we got the money, we make the phone call, but all we get is buzzes and beeps and buzzers. And yeah, but then they try to do that with Varga. And then that's a whole different story. Yeah. Let's talk about that one.
Let's talk about Varga. But before we go to Varga, in that scene, they do a nice little, they insert it really quickly right there. He's trying to set him up. If you decided to call that woman whatchamacallit, queen or whatever, something, and he goes, she's got money to burn. And he goes, where was she 2 years ago? Yeah. But, they're trying to introduce the girl.
And you also got to like their the character, the day players they get on there, because the guy that they're talking to on the couch, he's like, no, hold on. I didn't know the guy. I didn't vouch for him. I knew him. I met him. I knew you needed him. I just did the introduction. So, no, that was very good. That was very good. But yeah, so yeah.
He's not in there long for this first episode.
No, he's in one scene.
We just meet him. Yeah. But man, I was like, it was overwhelming. He stayed seated.
Well, the fact that he was sitting in Emmett's office by himself, you've already knew this guy was dangerous. They didn't, and apparently he's the guy that works for the guy that loaned him the money. But I love the idea that he said it was not a loan, it was an investment. And he basically just comes out and said, this is what we're going to use you guys for, without telling them why, what they're dealing in. It's just like, we studied everything about what you guys did. But I love there was one line that I thought was really great, which is, when they're saying we did not sign up for, an investment, we signed up for a loan and stuff. Yeah. And he made a comment and says, the questions you were asking, that should have been asked when you were asking for the money. you know, but you took the money.
Yeah.
And right then you knew they were on the hook. And it was just really well done.
Right. Yeah.
Talk about a hostile takeover.
Yeah.
Literally, yes.
Literally,
yes.
Yeah.
And then I like it. He has a British accent. He's like, "Where are you from?"
America.
And he just looks at him, America. You know,
yeah. You really, you don't know this guy. You know, we talked about this invisibility. That's what this guy is. Just like unassuming. If you walk down the street, you just wouldn't. In other words, you wouldn't. It's just another guy, some guy going to, you know.
And I think it's a good parallel from the opening when we first introduced Emmett and Cy, because they were the alpha dogs in the room,
right,
talking to the guy on the couch. But now you see them shrinking by having this guy. And the thing is, there's nothing immediately physically threatening about him. So he's not coming in there. He's not a big guy. He's not, you know, he didn't bring boys behind him. It's just a very tall, skinny English guy. But yet there's something about him with bad teeth. And just everything he said had this, like you're fucked. Everything he said was like, what did we get ourselves into?
Well, when he leans in and says, we have access to your system. We know, you know, we've had access to your system. I mean, that's got to be like, you know, this, you know, someone's in your computer. They've known everything you fucking done.
But which also makes me think that maybe what Emmett did when he needed the money was something that probably wasn't legal or on the books, because the fact that you could have just gone to a bank, you think the credit would have been able to because he's like the king of parking lots. Parking lots in Fargo seems to play a big dividends in the series and the movie. But he goes, you know what I'm saying?
It does.
But if you're going to Varga and you're asking his company for money, then that means that, you know, I don't know if there's a little embezzling going on or something, but they took the money. So that means he has something on them.
Well, we have to speculate, but let's face it, like he went to some place that he did. The guy mentioned at the beginning, goes, we went the regular routes, but, you know, that didn't work. So this had to be like, just, you know, just anytime you go somewhere and they're just giving you the money easy and the terms are, you know, you are just shaky. You just kind of like, you just trying to hoping if you do it, you're hoping that it's not going to be, you know, cost you, you know, they're not going to come for your firstborn child or your mom, you know, something like that or whatever. It's like,
well, I think that's also the reason why they wanted to pay him back, because Varga even mentions that you went to a route that you knew wasn't going to work. You wanted to fast track something really quick. Yeah. And then that's why we lend you the money. But the idea that you say, keep the money, it's an investment. You know, I love that the time that I've been to have asked those questions would have been then, which makes me think that they were urgent. They needed that money. And if you need that money, that means that something, you know, the protagonists in Fargo, they usually have done something wrong and they try to get out of it, or they're trying to fix it with more problems. And then next you know, people die.
Well, Emmett is really then, in essence, we're talking about Ray, but Emmett is really the quote unquote, a much more sophisticated or a much more wealthier Lester Nygaard and Jerry Lonergan. You know.
It is my favorite out of all, and don't get me wrong, both episodes of season 1, episode 1, season 2, episode 1 were really, really solid. Good. I think
Fargo is the state of mind. It makes everything that they do all makes sense. Like, in other words, I'm in when I go to watch Fargo.
Listening to you.
Yep.
We're about to go away.
Okay. I'll be quiet next time, Jack.
No. No. That means I'd have to talk. No.
I talk too much.
Hi, thanks for watching this episode of Zoom Breakdown. If you'd like to, please click like and subscribe. Leave comments. We would love to hear back from you, what you thought of the story breakdown and analysis. And and also links below to follow either Greg, Jack, or myself, and on Facebook and other places. And also, I like to always include a couple of links of media that I like to support, other left media that I like to support. I thank you so much for watching. Again, like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next episode. Thanks. Bye.